In this first problem, we're asked to take this thing and express it as a fraction in lowest terms. So let me give you a hint. Um, there's a couple of things. One is to remember your order of operations, okay? So I'm going to write order of operations. And commonly kids learn the order of operations by knowing the PEMDAS, by remembering what PEMDAS means. So I'm going to write it down like this. So PEMDAS means, this is for parentheses, E stands for exponents. Okay, and we don't have parentheses or exponents in this expression, so we don't have to worry about that. M and D, that's multiplication and division. And these are actually related because you can always turn a division problem into a multiplication problem. So dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. So really multiplication and division can be sort of treated together. And then we have addition and subtraction. Okay, and again, these can kind of be treated the same too, because when we subtract a number, so like if we say -2, that's the same as adding a -2. Okay, so if you turn your minus signs into negatives, so you're adding so that you're adding a negative instead of subtracting, then you can turn a subtraction problem into an addition problem. Okay, so that's the order of operations. So we have some multiplications in here and we have some additions. So we want to make sure that the multiplication is done first. So I'm actually going to stick some parentheses in here just to remind us that multiplication comes first. Okay? I'm still giving you a hint. I'm not going to do the solution yet. So here's the things that we have to do first. But don't go, don't launch into a bunch of computations yet. Look at this and see if there's another way you can simplify it. This problem actually came from a Moems test, and when they give you problems like this and they don't allow you to use a calculator, there's usually some way of simplifying the calculation. And the other thing that you can use to simplify the calculation is the distributive property. So if we have something like A, so if you remember the distributive property, if we have something like A times the quantity B plus C, then we can distribute the A among the two terms inside the parentheses. So that's equal to AB plus AC. But don't forget that it can also work in reverse. So if we have a common factor, like an A, between things that are added together, then we can actually go backwards and we can factor out the A. Okay? So that's another key to this problem. So that's the hint. So go ahead and work on it some more if you haven't gotten it already. And I'll give you the solution here. Alright, so I've practically solved the problem for you. We put parentheses around the multiplication. We did the multiplication first. And the key is to recognize some common factors in each one of these terms that are added together. Okay? And I bet you can see it now that I have the parentheses on there. There's a 7/19 in each of these terms. So we can actually factor out a 7/19. Okay? And that leaves us with 13/44, 19/44, and 25/44, and 31/44 added together. So you could do it that way. But you can also notice that there's a factor of 1/44 in each one of the terms. So you can actually factor that out as well. You don't have to, because actually you're and let me go ahead and just write that. 13/44 plus 19/44 plus 25/44 plus 31/44. Now that's pretty easy to add because you have all these fractions on a common denominator. You could factor out a 1/44, so you'd have 7/19 times 1/44. Factor both of those things out, and then you just have 13 plus 19 plus 25 plus 31. Okay? And that's pretty easy to add, and then just multiply. So let's go ahead and do that. If I add these two things together, I get 56. If I add these two things together, I get 32. If I add both of those together, I get 88. And so let me write what we've got now. Let me write off to the side. So that's equal to 7/19 times 1/44 times 88. Okay? And you can see that we can divide, these have a, 88 is just twice 44, right? So we can actually divide both sides, or top and bottom, by 44, and you get 2. So what we have is 7/19 times 2, and that's just 14/19. Okay? So when you see these kind of computation problems, especially on a MOEMS test, it's best, or any contest where they don't allow you to use calculators. There's always a trick to simplifying the arithmetic, and the key here was to use the distributive property, sort of in reverse. So instead, we're sort of undistributing the common factors in each one of these terms. Okay, so the key is to recognize that you have a common factor in each term of 7 over 19 times 1/44. Okay, so you have this common factor. And then it becomes a simple addition problem, and then you multiply by this thing, and it turns out you can reduce that even further. So always look for that when you've got arithmetic to do. Look for ways to simplify.